Well, it is good to be back with you again in worship. Good to start out Lent with you. And that Lenten journey is much like that music of starting out with this sense of, oh, what am I getting myself into here? People who are, some of us are saying, well, I'm not going to do this for these 40 days, or I'm going to try this for these 40 days. And it feels heavy at first. It feels difficult. And sometime in the middle of it, the lightness starts of like, I've created a space now. There's something new I can do in this space. I'm not speaking from experience because I'm never successful at Lent. But from what I hear and from what I read, that's how it's supposed to work. The Lenten journey, I believe, is really a journey of stripping away that which blocks us from genuine and deep intimacy. The journey of taking those layers off of ourselves, whatever they are, that keep us from truly connecting both with our own inner authentic self and also with those other folks around us and with the cosmos of which we are a part. The Lenten journey is a journey of spiritual intimacy. A journey in which, in order to know and be known, we have to practice the disciplines of humility and courage. Spiritual intimacy requires both of those pieces. Intimacy and courage. Humility and courage. And it takes humility, I would say, to be courageous. And it takes courage to be humble. And so this time of year is particularly geared towards this work of intimacy. Taking those pieces off of ourselves and saying, no, that's not really me. That may be something I identify with. That may be a behavior that I have. That may be a history that I have. Jacob's story of homecoming to his brother and his fear that his brother was going to attack him. It's all a story he carried. It wasn't him, but it certainly defined him. And it informed that time of wrestling in which he got a new name and walked differently and was known differently. And his brother, by the way, welcomes him home with open arms. This time where we take away those pieces of ourselves to discover who is truly at the core requires courage. And in terms of the humility, it requires a jazz-like quality, I think. The capacity to improvise. To when we let go of this piece and see what's there, to say, I can work with that. A capacity to link on with others, to play. To not be so confined by the stories we've told about who we are. Or the stories we've been told. That we can't even try a new behavior. One person, Joachim Behrendt, a jazz critic, defined jazz as different from European music in that it has a special relationship with time. A spontaneity and a vitality of musical production in which improvisation plays a role. Now, I'm not a jazz musician, but it seems to me that you can't take yourself too seriously and really play jazz. You have to have the capacity to not be tied down to the 4/4 time signature, to jump in, to listen to where life is calling you, to improvise, to use what you've got, to know who you are and to know where you are, and to be intimately and vibrantly alive in that moment. The developmental tasks of early and middle adulthood are many, depending on which theorists you look at, having to do with work, relationships, civic responsibility, assisting teenage children, assisting elderly parents, all of which require a new sense of self unique to that point in life, post-20-something. For the first time in human lives around that age, we have a capacity to have a core sense of who we are, enough so that we can choose to respond rather than react, that we can be intimate in a voluntary way. A friend was telling us last night about bonding with her infant and how her baby daughter would just lean up against her chest and there would be this mutual connection, and then would lean back out and look up at her and then lean back in. There's something instinctive at that point in life. There's a self there, yes, but the capacity to make a choice is so limited, physically, physiologically, psychologically, emotionally. And so as a 30-something mom, I'm guessing, holding that infant, that ability to receive it is so different than that ability to give it. To know what is being known as a mother, different than what is being known as that infant. A developmental theorist, D.W. Winnicott, specializing in self-psychology, object relations theory, and infant mental health, talks about this and says, the matters of very early emotional development are matters which go on being the basic tasks of every human being throughout life.